Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. 10 years ago, my father took the first step towards realizing a vision central to his long career as an independent inventor by starting the Lemelson Foundation with a little assistance from his family. Those of you who knew him probably recognize that he was not always the most patient person. During the first few years of the Foundation's efforts, which unfortunately coincided with the last years of his life, he expressed the thoughts that we weren't showing results quickly enough. Jerry, wherever you are, I trust you'll agree now that some things are worth waiting for. Jerry understood the critical role played by innovation in shaping America's economic preeminence, and he knew that our nation's continued success ultimately depended on maintaining a favorable climate for innovation. Jerry defined this favorable climate broadly to include intellectual property law and policy, our country's educational system, and our cultural attitudes towards innovation. Not surprisingly, a nation's culture plays a major role in determining whether innovation thrives or not, for it can encourage or discourage, reward or ignore innovators. Jerry wanted Americans to understand and appreciate the contributions of inventors whose work leads to technologies that improve all our lives. Above all, he wanted young people to understand and experience the spark of insight and creativity that forms the core of the process of invention. We've come a long way in the last decade. I use the term we very intentionally because Jerry's original vision has blossomed into a set of programs led by individuals and institutions who work cooperatively and with a tremendous degree of creativity and dedication. Because many of you tonight, in the audience tonight, are familiar with the Foundation's domestic programs, and since tonight's ceremony, thankfully, does not permit me to talk endlessly, I will describe them only briefly. The Lemelson-MIT program, which culminates in tonight's event, celebrates America's leading inventors while also educating the media and the public about innovation. The newest aspect of the program, one that really excites us, involves teams of high school inventors called naturally invent teams. This represents one of our first efforts to cultivate innovation at the high school level. The Lemelson Center for the Study of Invention and Innovation at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History researches, documents, and elucidates the role of invention in creating our vibrant culture and economy. The National Collegiate Inventors and Innovators Alliance, with more than 220 college and university partners, the number may be higher, maybe I'm not up to date on that, but it's going up all the time, provides thousands of students with the opportunity to invent and develop entrepreneurial skills working in student teams. The Foundation's domestic programs also include the Lemelson Assistive Technology Development Center, also known as LATDOC, at Hampshire College, which provides Hampshire College students with experiential education in developing technology for the disabled, and the Lemelson program at the University of Nevada, Reno, that provides engineering students with engineering-based entrepreneurial education. Speaking for our family and the staff of the Foundation, we feel incredibly fortunate to be able to work with such a wonderful group. I hope you will indulge me while I spend a few minutes speaking about our international program entitled Invention for Sustainable Development that focuses on encouraging innovation in developing nations. Many, if not most of us, are painfully aware that more than 3 billion people with whom we share this small planet lack the most basic amenities that many of us take for granted, such as clean water, basic medical care, and even the opportunity to learn a living and support their families. Yet I believe this is an auspicious time to be working at the crossroads where sustainable development, innovation, and entrepreneurship meet. While the media still tends to portray the problems of developing countries as intractable and essentially static, there is increasing evidence that even the poorest residents of developing countries are potential or actual inventors and entrepreneurs. Our first year's field research showed us that technological innovation is happening in many places and in some cases on a scale few of us would have imagined. In India, for example, we've worked with an organization that has documented tens of thousands of inventors working and living primarily in rural villages whose innovations have significant potential to increase the productivity of agriculture, small-scale industry, transportation, and other important aspects of daily life. Yet often a lack of resources, access to markets, or needed information prevents these inventors from seeing their innovations succeed or spread beyond the village level. One of the key questions for the Foundation, then, is how best to assist grassroots inventors and innovators to turn their work into successful products that generate jobs and improve living standards. The international program's first goal, therefore, is to work with existing institutions in developing nations to create mentoring and support systems that assist individual inventors and innovators, especially those at the village level who are working to advance the broad objectives of sustainable development. As I mentioned earlier, culture plays a critical role in determining whether inventors succeed, and developing countries vary tremendously in terms of their support for innovators. Our international program's second facet involves recognizing and rewarding inventors and innovators in highly visible public forums in the developing world in a format potentially similar to the Lemelson-MIT program. Here we aim to provide role models and examples of success that can influence public attitudes towards invention in developing countries. The program's third facet focuses on the direct dissemination of technologies, whether invented locally or not, that can help meet basic human needs, solve pressing problems such as access to clean water, and also create jobs by harnessing the kind of entrepreneurial energy common to all the world's peoples. The Foundation's prime directive in direct dissemination is to work with indigenous institutions to fund locally based initiatives. I would like to highlight one example of the kind of approaches we have funded to meet this goal. A Kenya-based NGO called Aprotech, one of the founders is with us tonight, designed and is manufacturing and selling a simple but ingenious treadle pump used for irrigation. This human-powered water pump gives small farmers the ability to draw from shallow wells, especially in rural areas where electricity is not available. Farmers, who are often women, are buying this relatively simple technology and using it to grow food and other crops that they then sell at local and urban markets. Their increased earnings allow them to educate their children, provide their families with basic medical care, and provide capital for other investments such as improved housing. The Foundation's grant financed technical improvements to make the well drilling process more efficient and less expensive. Thousands of these treadle pumps have been sold in Kenya, and this is incredible, resulting in a documented increase in the country's GNP of more than 0.5%. This is an astounding figure by any measure and demonstrates the power of relatively simple and inexpensive technology to change people's lives profoundly. It's really pretty difficult for me to put into words how amazing it is to see one well-designed innovation literally revolutionize the lives of thousands of poor Kenyans. I've been asked occasionally what my father might think about the Foundation's new direction, since he was at heart a patriot who wanted to see our nation maintain its economic competitiveness. My answer is threefold, but essentially simple. First, Jerry believed in justice, in fairness, and in compassion, values he shared with his wife and instilled in his sons. Can any of us be truly satisfied with our lives when so much remains to be done to reduce suffering in this world? Second, the global economy is not a zero-sum game, and improving living standards in the developing world by fostering innovation does not necessitate a reduction in living standards in the developed world. In fact, it should make life better for all of us. Third, Jerry believed in an idealistic America, in a nation that led by example and by cooperation. I think he would be very much supportive of the new direction we've chosen for the Lemelson Foundation. Thank you very much.